Bueno, pues muy buenos días a todas y a todos. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos en este webinar. Una disculpa por la tardanza. Hubo algunos problemas técnicos, pero bueno, ya estamos aquí y les damos la más cálida bienvenida. Debido a que tenemos invitados del Reino Unido, el webinar se va a llevar a cabo en inglés. So I will now switch to English. Once again, good morning in Mexico and good afternoon in Europe. Welcome to our webinar on the green hydrogen opportunities for Mexico. My name is Marco Jano, and I am the Energy Projects Leader at the Mario Molina Center in Mexico City. I am also the technical manager of our green hydrogen project, which is part of the portfolio of projects of the UK PACT program in Mexico. I would like to greatly acknowledge the generous support from the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, BASE, through its UK PACT program and the interest shown by the main beneficiaries of our project in Mexico. I would also like to thank the staff at the British Embassy in Mexico City and Palladium, who have been fundamental in the organization of this event. Before moving on with the agenda, I would only like to highlight some housekeeping points. Firstly, I would like to mention that this event is being recorded. We will upload a recorded version with subtitles in Spanish on our website. Secondly, today we will have presentations from international experts on the topic. And after the presentations, we will have a question and answer session. For this session, you will be able to submit your questions in English or Spanish, and we will read them in English to our speakers. So we kindly ask you to use the Q&A button that you can find at the right-hand side corner of your screen. We have a packed agenda and we are running late. So for this reason, I would like to start with the first part of our agenda. It is a great honor for me to introduce the British Ambassador to Mexico, Ms. Corinne Robertson, who will be addressing a welcome speech. Thank you very much, Ambassador Robertson, for participating in this webinar, and I will now hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Marco, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody on the line. It's great to be here and great to see you all. I didn't know when I was invited to be part of this event, I didn't know that two regions that are very close to my heart in the UK are showing great leadership on energy transition and in particular pushing for new technologies like the use of hydrogen. So I've done a bit of research with my team on that, and my hometown is Sheffield in the north of England. I'm very proud to say that Sheffield earlier this year opened a plant that aims to cut the cost of electrolyzers by almost 40% in the next 3 years, and therefore helping to take a step in the right direction with regard to the use of hydrogen. And the second place is Aberdeenshire, where my husband is from. The city of Aberdeen is one of Europe's pioneers in the use of hydrogen. And thanks to the work of the city's council, it's developed a cluster with 2 publicly accessible hydrogen refueling stations and one of the largest and most varied fleets of hydrogen vehicles in Europe, including the first ever fleet of fuel cell double-decker buses, I'm told. So it's great to hear about that and see the fantastic progress that's being made with regard to hydrogen. And we all know the importance of fostering the use and implementation of new technologies as part of our strategy in the UK and globally to transition to a low carbon economy. It's absolutely essential. And the UK's commitment to reach net zero is a main driver for what we've been doing domestically in our country. That was reflected in Prime Minister Boris Johnson's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution. And the second of those 10 points is dedicated to driving the growth of low carbon hydrogen. So exactly the point that you'll be discussing today. Working with the private sector, we aim for 5 gigawatts of low carbon hydrogen production capacity by 2030. And supporting the development of this technology, we believe could unlock up to 100,000 jobs in the economy by 2050 and mobilise over £4 billion of private investment in the period running up to 2030 and reduce 41 million tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions between 2023 and 2032. And these are really impressive figures and very ambitious, but things which can make a real difference, we believe, to our low carbon journey. So, and to help to achieve this, we're working to identify and use synergies with other sectors, for instance, offshore wind, which obviously is an important sector for the UK, given all the wind and all the sea we have around us. Globally, we're all searching for alternatives to create a more sustainable and inclusive economy. Green hydrogen, we believe, has the potential to reach this objective, although, of course, not without its challenges, which is why understanding the local context in each country and the local needs in each country is really important, and to be able to create a roadmap for its implementation. That's absolutely fundamental to be able to make an impact. In the UK, our plan sets out several milestones from now until 2025, investing £60 million to support the development of low carbon hydrogen in the UK. But we're also really keen to support the development of low carbon hydrogen outside of the UK as well. And through UK Pact, we want to adapt our approach to the Mexican context and support experts such as the panelists participating in the event today to provide the technical knowledge required to develop and implement this technology in Mexico. And I'm absolutely certain that this project that you're talking about today will become a fantastic example of knowledge and expertise sharing between the UK and Mexico, so that we can both join forces, learn from each other, and move together even more quickly towards a clean energy future. So thank you once again for inviting me, and best wishes for the webinar today.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your very kind words. We will definitely, we are very happy to have this collaboration with the UK and with Mexico. And for this, we also have invited Dr. Claudia Octaviano, who is General Coordinator of Climate Change and Low Carbon Development at the National Institute of Ecology and Climate Change, INEC. Welcome, Claudia, and I pass over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marco, and good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the British Ambassador, Your Excellency, Ms. Corinne Robertson. Thank you for being with us. Also, Dr. Bárcena, Executive Director of the Mario Molina Center. It's a great pleasure to be with you and have the opportunity to address this audience interested in hydrogen in Mexico, this very important technology for decarbonization. So first, let me start by sharing with you how excited I am that the Centro Mario Molina is leading on this effort. Dr. Molina was always an innovator and inspirator, and I am sure that he will be delighted to see the center continue with this work, continue leading the conversation in Mexico with the technologies that can actually help us move Mexico towards low carbon development and real solutions at the scale that are needed to fully move the energy mix to low carbon solutions. Of course, talking about hydrogen is new in Mexico, and I'm sure these conversations are happening around the world. It is really important not to start from zero, to have these processes of collaboration with countries such as the UK that can help our countries have a better startup on this discussion. So I want to thank very much the UK and the UK experts that are here with us today. Dr. Diana Irureta-Goyena Ferrer from Imperial College, Beatriz Fidalgo from British Petroleum, and Jessica Ocampos from Cambridge. I am very excited that all of them are women, all of them are here to help us learn more, and also to strengthen these scientific linkages between our Mexican institutions and the British institutions, because it's only with this knowledge, with this scientific dialogue, that Mexico will move forward in so many debates that we have currently regarding the clean energy transition. So I am very happy that this is happening today, and that Centro Mario Molina is also helping us trigger this discussion in Mexico. I also want to acknowledge the presence and collaboration of Dr. Fernando de Cisternes from the World Bank, also a very dear friend of mine from the times of MIT. So Fer, I am very happy that you are here. I'm very looking forward to listen to your presentation. I want to also share with you that, of course, the world is facing a climate crisis, and Mexico is no exception. Mexico is a very vulnerable country, and it's also among the 15 top emitters of the world. This is something that we should not forget, because what Mexico does is really important in terms of putting an example and moving the world forward on the decarbonization process. Talking about net zero today really means talking about changing the way we are producing energy. And not only energy, we know that electricity needs to be decarbonized, but there are also other sectors, such as transportation, some industrial sectors that need other solutions, that will need to move fast to reach the net zero targets. So this is something that, of course, Mexico needs to analyze. As you know, Mexico updated its NDC last year, and we are committed to look for more mitigation. We're committed to increase our ambition, but we need to do this based on science, based on sound economic and technological analysis. And I think this is something that this type of studies will help us do, find ways forward and policies that will help engage the private sector, engage the scientific community, and engage, of course, all the innovators that are out there trying to contribute to the climate problem solution. I think that something that the UK PACT program is doing, and I think it's really very important in Mexico, is try to identify these projects in collaboration with several government agencies. So this is something that is aligned with some of the priorities in terms of climate policy. And I do thank the UK for this very open collaboration and this engagement with different stakeholders. Of course, in this case, Centro Mario Molina and the academia and the scientific experts, but also with all the different relevant ministries that are working on these issues in the country. And as you know, INEC is one of these stakeholders. INEC will continue to develop research and collaborations that can help us inform better our climate policies, particularly these mitigation policies that can unlock some more mitigation and better targets for our country. I want to share with you also that in the context of the UNFCCC process, we are opening this discussion also at the Latin American region level. We are about to launch also a project with Brazil and with Chile, two of our key partners in the region. And we believe that this project of Centro Mario Molina and the international regional project will also cross-fertilize ideas and help us also understand technologies that can be scaled up in the Latin American region. So I am very happy that we will have these two projects in parallel, and that this will help us to speed up the conversations with our partners in Latin America, because at the end of the day, it's also a matter of preparing our countries, our people, to engage in the new global low carbon economy. So thank you very much for this process. I want to close by, of course, putting INEC as an institution that can help you all that are connected here, all that want to contribute to climate mitigation. And please let us know if there is some ideas or projects that will benefit from that. And in particular, this project, I'm sure we'll have several workshops, Marco, and we are very happy to be engaged and following up this particular project with Centro Mario Molina. We look forward for this conversation today. And I do wish that all the participants can keep engaged in this conversation in Mexico, and this is only the start of a very fruitful work ahead. Thank you very much, Dr. Rajana and Ms. Ambassador Corey.
Thank you very much, Claudia, for your words. We will certainly take advantage of our collaboration with you, and we will try to do our best in this project. Thank you very much. To close this part of the event, I introduce our Executive Director, Dr. Eduardo Bárcena. Thank you very much, Doctor, and I hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Janoito. Greetings to everybody. I'm sorry for the delay in the connection, but I have some technical problems, like the Murphy's Law jump into my into my place today. I'm very delighted to participate in this welcoming session of the first dissemination event on the green hydrogen opportunities for Mexico that the Mario Molina Center is hosting through the UK PAC program. We're very happy about having gathered top international experts representing, hold on a minute. Sorry, I have a problem in here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll go back. We're happy about having gathered top international experts representing a wide range of areas from academia to international organizations who will be presenting their works on the fundamental and promising topic, which expected benefits for large populations around the world. As you know, our societies are currently facing the enormous challenge of decarbonizing their economies and of moving towards a net zero emissions scenario. To overcome this challenge, several technologies must be developed and deployed. And one top technology is green hydrogen, since it represents a key innovation with impact in a wide variety of industrial sectors to achieve a rapid and urgent decarbonization. Today's webinar is aimed at accelerating the discussion of this topic and to bring together stakeholders from Mexico and the United Kingdom so that this could lead to the implementation of pilot projects in Mexico. The Mario Molina Center has always worked on bringing the best available science to key decision makers and continues to do so, keeping alive the legacy of the late Professor Mario Molina. This event is of great importance to us, since energy is one of our main areas of work, and we're certain that today's discussion and shared information would not only be of extreme value for our green hydrogen project, but for informing private, public, academic, and social sectors of the real opportunities of this technology. I would like to highlight that the United Kingdom government, through its embassy in Mexico, as well as the Instituto Nacional de Ecología y Cambio Climático, have always been great allies of the Mario Molina Center. This initiative shows our commitment to continue working together so that Mexico can move forward to a low carbon development pathway. Specifically, our project is aimed at enhancing and expanding this collaboration so that the green hydrogen can be a central part of our energy and climate policy and further translated into reality. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude for the opportunity to participate in this ceremony along with Ambassador Corinne Robertson and Dr. Claudia Octaviano, and indeed, our deepest gratitude to the UK PAC program for its generous support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bárcena, for your words. For the next part of our webinar, I will be presenting the project that we are currently developing at the Mario Molina Center. So let me share my screen with you. So can you see my screen?
Yes. Sí. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I will be very briefly presenting our project since we already have a very packed agenda and we are a bit late. I would give more time to our guest speakers, so I will be very brief. Firstly, I would like to thank my team at the Mario Molina Center who is working on this project. And I would also like to thank our administrative staff who has been also fundamental in the organization of this event. So the general project of the Mario Molina Center is the assessment of the greenhouse gas mitigation potential of hydrogen and implementation roadmap for Mexico. So I will start talking about the project objectives and activities. First, among the objectives, our first objective is to evaluate the greenhouse gas mitigation potential and the economics of green hydrogen for its low carbon use in Mexico. Our second objective is to analyze pilot project alternatives and to establish an implementation roadmap. Our main and final objective is that this project could serve as an initial point to gather interested actors from Mexico and the United Kingdom, and also to materialize the technical information derived from this project into real pilot projects. So in order to achieve these objectives, we have planned several activities. We are currently in the first activity, which is the review of the state-of-the-art technologies for production, transport, storage, and uses of clean hydrogen. And we are also mapping existing experiences and actors at both the national and international levels. Our next step and our next activity is to analyze the costs of and greenhouse gas mitigation potential of green hydrogen alternatives and use this information to design a roadmap identifying possible barriers, opportunities, and also co-benefits. So the final activity in our project is to disseminate these results in a final event. So I will now move on with our project. The reasoning behind our project is based on the fact that in recent years, there has been a huge interest in hydrogen, particularly because of its importance as a low carbon alternative. As you can see in the top graphs, there has been a significant increase in the addition of new hydrogen capacity, and it is very likely that this trend will continue in the future. There are still some challenges in terms of costs. For example, steam methane reforming is still the lowest cost production route for hydrogen, and electrolyzer costs are still high. However, as you can see in the lower graph, electrolyzer costs have been reducing, and it is likely that this trend might continue in the future. In the particular case of Mexico, we need to remark that Mexico has abundant renewable resources. So we think that green hydrogen costs might be lower in comparison to other places in the world. Mexico cannot stay behind. And even though initial efforts have been taken, such as the creation of a hydrogen society, a hydrogen association, and the announcement of a green hydrogen project in Guanajuato that might be starting operations in 2026, more has to be done in order to reach the established targets. For instance, the development program of the National Electricity System, the PRODECEN, considers the addition of 500 megawatts of combined cycles with green hydrogen between 2025 and 2034. Of course, hydrogen is, there are not only opportunities of green hydrogen in electricity, and hydrogen represents a solution that has several applications in different areas. So as you can see in this diagram, even though we are focusing on low carbon electricity for hydrogen production, there are different routes, and there are also several sectors that could use this hydrogen. So for this reason, hydrogen must be analyzed considering the entire supply chain. You cannot only analyze one part, but you have to analyze hydrogen in its entire value chain. So there is also another fact that you have to consider in terms of hydrogen analysis that has to do with the regional availability of resources and also in the location of demand. So we are taking these factors, and of course we are also looking at and analyzing opportunities in different sectors such as steel production or refining, ammonia production, mining, and transport as well. So we already have identified several opportunities, and I would like to mention some examples. Firstly, Mexico has a natural gas transmission system that could incorporate green hydrogen so that it can be mixed with natural gas, as is currently being done in other countries. Secondly, the existing oil refineries have a high hydrogen demand for desulfurization processes. which is currently not being met. So hydrogen could also be an alternative for these uses. Thirdly, Mexico has geological resources that could provide hydrogen storage for its later use. We have to acknowledge as well that Mexico could also take advantage of its strategic position as neighbor of the US, and also could export this green hydrogen. Well, to finish and summarize my participation, I would like you to take two messages home. The first message is that green hydrogen is a long-term solution, which highly depends on costs. However, it is expected that this cost would reduce very rapidly, and Mexico should not stay behind. The second message, and I think more important message, is that green hydrogen could represent a solution for energy storage from solar or wind energy that can be used in several sectors and even reduce our dependency on natural gas. So far, this is, we are, as I mentioned, we are at the early stages of our project, but we will continue working on this, on this topic during the year, and we will gladly share our findings with you. Thank you very much. This is my email address in case you want to ask anything and contact me. So now let me continue with our agenda. The next part of our event today is the presentation sessions. Today we have gathered distinguished experts from a wide range of areas, including academia, the private sector, and international organizations. And for this presentation session, they will be sharing their experience and work. I greatly thank you all for being part of this event. And I am certain that your knowledge on green hydrogen and pilot project implementation will be key not only for our project, but all interested actors in Mexico who are working on this subject. I'm very happy to see some friends from the UK, and I really appreciate your participation in this event. I would also like to thank Dr. Fernando de Cisternes, who is also participating, and their knowledge will be very important. So our first presentation will be delivered by Dr. Diana Irureta-Goyena. I will just read a very brief biography of Dr. Irureta-Goyena. Dr. Irureta-Goyena obtained her BSc, Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering at the National Autonomous University of Mexico in 2006. In 2009, she obtained an MSc in Chemical Engineering in the area of catalytic processes, and in 2014, she obtained a PhD degree in the Department of Chemical Engineering at Imperial College London. Her outstanding research work was recognized with the Julia Higgins Centenary Prize, and her thesis was published in the Springer Thesis Award Series. Between 2015 and 2019, Diana was research associate in the same department at Imperial College, participating in UK and European projects. She is part of the editorial board of Springer Applied Sciences and is frequent reviewer of leading journals. In 2019, she was awarded with the Imperial College Research Fellowship, and her current research deals with the study of development of more economic, environmentally friendly, and energy efficient processes in the areas of carbon capture and storage, hydrogen production, and other bio-based catalytic processes. It is worth mentioning that Diana also has actively participated since 2007 in teaching activities in various areas of chemical engineering. She has the associate fellowship status of the Higher Education Academy. Thank you very much, and we are looking forward to your presentation. I stopped sharing
I'm gonna share my presentation.
Just before that, a quick reminder that you have between 15 and 20 minutes. So we will be reminding you 5 minutes before the end of the 20 minutes period.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning in Mexico. My name is Diana Irureta Goyena Ferrer. I work in the Department of Chemical Engineering at Imperial College London, and I am in Imperial College London Research Fellow. My talk will be about novel hierarchical networks as support for hydrotheracide for low carbon hydrogen production. My presentation will contain background, research objectives, synthesis and characterization of the materials, experimental CO2 absorption studies, and also modeling work. And then I will give some concluding remarks and work in progress and the acknowledgements. As we all know, hydrogen is one of the most important raw materials, not only for the chemical, but also for the refinery industries worldwide. And hydrogen is expected to play a large role in the future energy system, mainly because it can be used as an ultra-clean fuel in the transport and heat sectors. And this can help to meet stringent environmental regulations. For instance, the Climate Change Act, the Paris Agreement, which have met or set to achieve complete decarbonization by 2050. Here I am just showing that hydrogen can be produced by different type of routes. It can be green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, in which I'm gonna be focusing my presentation. If we start from renewable or hydrogen sources, we have green hydrogen from electrolysis. And if we start from natural gas, coal, and then combine it by either steam methane reforming or coal gasification, and with CO2 capture, then we have blue hydrogen. And these are the topics that I've been investigating, and I will be talking about them. This slide complements also the previous slide. There are different production routes of hydrogen. The conventional sources that you can see, natural gas, oil, coal, and also from renewables. For instance, biomass, nuclear. And as you can see in the right-hand side of the presentation, natural gas is still the most economic and feasible route to large-scale hydrogen production nowadays. What I am referring with low-carbon hydrogen production? I am referring to two different types of routes. One of them is electrolysis or low carbon electricity, which we will call green, and steam methane reforming or coal gasification coupled with carbon capture and storage, that is blue hydrogen. And here I am showing the process of methane steam reforming of natural gas. And we can see highlighted in blue that carbon capture can be applied in different parts of the process. As you can see, in three different parts. This is also a simplified scheme of the process. We can start from natural gas if it is a reformer, and then if it is from coal or biomass, in a gasifier. Then we have the water gas shift section that is carried out in two stages. The first one is a high temperature stage, and the second one is a low temperature unit. And finally, we have the purification of hydrogen. And we have a CO2 capture, compression, storage, and transportation, or hydrogen can be used to produce chemicals or to produce electricity and heat. And this process of steam methane reforming of natural gas needs to be improved. There's an imperative to improve this process in terms of economic energy efficiency, and also to make it more environmentally friendly with low CO2 carbon. One of the most promising strategies to achieve this is called sorption-enhanced hydrogen production. This involves catalytic reactions like the one that I'm showing here in pink. You can see that this type of reactions have CO2. So when it is captured in situ in the system by using a solid adsorbent, then the production of hydrogen can be significantly enhanced. The process is a pre-combustion CO2 capture technology, and it can be carried out either in the reformer, in the steam methane reforming reactor, or in the water gas shift section. But it has been seen that in terms of thermodynamics, it is more feasible to do it in the water gas shift reaction, in the sorption-enhanced water gas shift reaction. And this had advantages, for instance, such as having fast kinetics, lower amount of steam, and in general, it is more economic. It can also be used, it is more versatile to do it in the water gas shift because it can be produced glycerol, start with combinations of ethanol or biomass. In the right-hand side of the presentation, what you can see is that the process can be operated in parallel units, in sorption or catalytic unit and the regeneration unit, and also in circulating beds. The point that I want to make in this slide is that the process has been carried out of the CWUX process already in a pilot plant scale in Europe, in the Energy Center of the Netherlands, in combination with Sweden, and also with a company here in the UK. And also in the United States, there has been a pilot plant scale units. The main adsorbent that is used is called a hydrotheracide material, and the process contains different steps, as I am showing in the right-hand side of the presentation. In the table, what you can see is that in terms of different metrics, the CWUX process is better or more efficient in terms of CO2 avoided, for instance, and cost than the conventional process that is the cellulose. There are different CO2 adsorbents that can be used for sorption-enhanced hydrogen production, and in particular for CWUX. Physisorbents such as zeolites, activated carbons, MOFs, or chemisorbents such as lithium carbonates and calcium oxides. However, it has been seen that in the operating temperature window of CWUX, that is from 473 Kelvin to 673 Kelvins, the most promising group of adsorbents are called hydrotheracide materials. And these materials, as you can see in the bottom of the presentation, are layer structure materials that are composed by cations, typically magnesium, aluminum, CO2, or carbonates, and water. The materials have many advantages, such as fast kinetics. They need to have low energy to be regenerated. They are selective in the presence of competing species, and also such as water. And they also can, their basicity can make them good as catalysts and adsorbents in the process. However, one of the main challenges for hydrothericides is still to improve their capacity and stability so they can be used in large scale units. The objectives of the work that I've been doing for a long time now is to support them in different high surface area materials. First, in multi-wall carbon nanotubes and in graphene oxide, and significant enhancements in terms of stability and activity are obtained. However, in the case of multi-wall carbon nanotubes, a large amount of support is needed. Therefore, the adsorption units are not of very practical size. In the case of GEO, it is more compatible with hydrotheracide, but tends to have a restacking when it is cycled. Then, more recently, what I've been doing is to investigate other type of structures that are novel hierarchical materials. One of them is a combination of multi-wall carbon nanotubes and graphene oxide aerogels, and SBA15, with the idea of have better heat and also mass transport properties. In this slide, I'm going to be brief. I just want to mention that all these type of materials are prepared by using coprecipitation, and then they have been activated. They need to be activated at relatively high temperatures so they can be active. There are different metals that can be used. Typically, I mentioned magnesium, aluminum, but other metals can be used. They can have promoters and different amounts of support as well. The materials can be characterized using many physicochemical characterization techniques. For instance, microscopy, as you can see in the top of the presentation, and also STEM images combined with EDS analysis that are mainly to see the distribution of metals in the materials and see the composition of them. Other techniques such as ICP can be used as well. Also, in terms of characterization, XRD and nitrogen phase distortion, as seen on the top of the presentation, can be used. And the point that I want to make here, as you can see, the hydrotheracide, when it is supported, the crystal size decreases significantly with the use of supports, and the surface area of the materials increases, and all this is beneficial for the activity of these materials in the process. TGA that I'm showing in the bottom, in the left corner of the presentation, is mainly used to check what are the content of support in the samples. And in the right-hand side, I'm showing the basicity of the samples. That is a technique called temperature program desorption technique that I needed to develop here at Imperial. And it can have different carbonates. It can show you the basicity and the different type of carbonates that are adsorbed, or CO2 species that are adsorbed on the hydrotheracide materials. Here, I just want to mention two things. That there are different methods to analyze the CO2 adsorption or catalytic performance of these materials. And two of the main methodologies that I have explored are the use of gravimetric analysis, TGA type techniques, and also gravimetric analyzers such as IGA. The TGA type techniques, they work at low pressure. And more recently, I've been using a gravimetric analyzer that operates at higher pressure. And with them, it is possible to do temperature swing adsorption cycling and also pressure swing adsorption experiments. In the bottom, I am showing that it is very convenient to use packed bed columns to produce kinetic experiments and that are called breakthrough curve experiments. And also, they are adequate methodologies to analyze different molecules, for instance, water species and so on, perform catalytic tests and so on. But mainly I have been using them, or I have used them to produce kinetics. In this graph, what I'm going to show, or the main key message that I want you to take, is that compare, for instance, hydrotheracides with alumina, multi-wall carbon nanotubes and graphene oxides is that graphene oxides are outstanding or the most convenient support in terms of capacity and cycling. However, as I mentioned before, they tend to restack when they are cycled materials. And therefore, that's the need of support them on novel hierarchical structures. The first one that I tried is SBA15 hybrids. As you can see, graphene oxide seems to be still performing better, but the main advantage of SBA15, as you can see in the right-hand side of the presentation on the table, you can see that the kinetics are much faster than multi-wall carbon nanotubes. And also they help in terms of mass transport properties in general. In case of multi-wall carbon nanotubes and geohybrids, it has been observed that they help to prevent the restacking of the graphene oxide alone. And in this plot, the only message that I want you to take off is that there are optimum values in terms of carbon support, loadings, etc., in order to produce a better performance. Let me check because to proceed with the next slide. Here, the support in terms, these are temperature program desorption experiments, what I'm showing here. And for the pure hydrotheracide, as you can see in the left-hand side of the presentation, the hydrotheracide has some heterogeneity. And this means that when it cycles, it loses some heterogeneity in terms of sites, whereas the graphene oxide, and you can see besides it, it tends to preserve a better heterogeneity for a longer number of cycles. This has been proved not only by temperature program desorption techniques, but also from infrared analysis. And also the support in general, this is in general, helps to reduce sintering of the materials, as you can see in the bottom of the presentation. Here, what I want to say, that I mentioned it previously, is that the hydrotheracide materials can be promoted to enhance their capacity with alkali ions, potassium, sodium, cesium, and also water has a very positive effect. I'm gonna be describing very briefly here, but different isotherms can be used to produce, to describe the adsorption equilibrium of the materials. For instance, the Freundlich isotherm, the Langmuir, and the Toth, and it depends how cycled are the materials. You can see that the pure hydrotheracide becomes more homogeneous from Langmuir to Freundlich, and in the case of the Freundlich case, it helps to preserve the heterogeneity for a longer number of cycles. And this can be represented, all the performances, by using a Toth isotherm that is a 3-parameter isotherm. Then in terms of high pressure test that I've been doing more recently, as you can see, hydrotheracide tends to deactivate with cycling. And in case of the zeolite, the performance is reversible. In the case, however, if we have a closed loop in the table that I'm showing here, for instance, on 1000 millibars, that is very attractive for the CWEX process, we can see that the hydrotheracide materials exhibit a better performance in terms of adsorption capacity. And also the zeolites are expected to deactivate in the presence of water. Therefore, it is very important to support the hydrotheracides in carbon-supported materials. In these two graphs that I'm showing here, I just want to see that among different novel hierarchical structures that I've been exploring their use, graphene aerogel seems to be particularly promising materials, and they achieve a better absorption capacity than the pure or unsupported material. And when they are combined not only with magnesium and aluminum, as I am showing in the right-hand side of the presentation, they can, with copper, for instance, or other combinations that are very promising for the sorption-enhanced hydrogen production processes, they also exhibit better performance. And they can be represented by suitable adsorption isotherms. I have also been doing modeling work, and these ones in particular that I'm showing here are related to the fixed bed experiments and are related to the breakthrough curve analysis. So as you can see here, these are the type of responses in the figure that I'm showing here, the type of responses that are obtained. And the main model contains different aspects: mass balance, energy balance, and pressure drop as well. Also, something called linear driving force model and an isotherm model.
Diana, I am very sorry to interrupt you, but we are still a bit behind schedule. So if you could start summarizing and concluding, we would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, sure. I'm almost done.
Thank you.
These are the type of results in terms of modeling that are obtained, the breakthrough curve analysis. As you can see here, there is a good estimation of the kinetic parameters. There's a good fit. The support of the materials does not affect the good kinetics of hydrotherasides. And also, the isotherms help to be consistent to predict the different models, as we can see in the right-hand side of the presentation. I am gonna summarize now the presentation. There are some concluding remarks and also work in progress. And the message that I want you to take off from this talk is that carbon-supported hydrotherasides show improved thermal stability and also intrinsic capacity. Hybrid systems seems to be very effective and to provide a better surface area for the materials. Also, novel graphene aerogel seems to be particularly effective for the sorption-enhanced hydrogen production. As I was mentioning, the materials can be promoted with alkali and water to enhance their properties. Dynamic models can be used to predict the performance. And also, well, there's work in progress. The main work in progress is in terms of development of materials, models, other processes. For instance, I've been exploring the sulfurization. Other type of sources can be used, such as ethanol, methanol, use of the state-art equipment and analysis as well. And also, these materials are can be used in other type of processes, for instance, chemical looping processes as well. In terms of acknowledgements, I want to acknowledge the Department of Chemical Engineering at Imperial College London, many academics involved that have helped me in my development of my career. I want to acknowledge also students from different levels, undergrads, masters, PhD students in the Department of Chemistry of Imperial College London that I also collaborate significantly, and the University of Leeds, among other collaborators. And then the sponsors as well. I've been sponsored since my PhD studies in Mexico. I'm very thankful for that, on CONACYT, CEP, for my PhD students. And then in my postgraduate studies, in my postdoctoral work from an EPSRC UK-based project, an European project, and UK-based project that it was called Elegancy, and the Julia Higgins Fund, and the Imperial College London Fellowship. And also, well, I want to acknowledge the Mario Molina Center for giving me the opportunity also to share my knowledge and my presentation, and I am available for questions at a convenient time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diana, for your presentation. Today, we have gathered a very broad audience, and as you can see, hydrogen is a very broad topic, so we try to include different perspectives. So we are now going to move on to the next presentation from the private sector. So for this, we have Dr. Beatriz Fidalgo Fernandez. Dr. Fidalgo is the Green Hydrogen Lead at BP in London, and a subject matter expert, SME, in hydrogen production technologies. Dr. Fidalgo provides SME to business-driven project ideation, working cross-function with business developers, commercial and strategy teams, and engineers and scientists. Her work is focused on early project opportunities on hydrogen, assessing hydrogen technologies to achieve net zero operations, and to evaluate venture opportunities and future low carbon technologies. Before joining BP, Dr. Fidalgo worked more than 10 years in highly prestigious research institutions, including Imperial College, and as a lecturer at the University of Cranfield, in areas related to the thermocatalytic conversion of carbon-based fuels, with emphasis on production of hydrogen via methane reforming and pyrolysis and gasification of biomass. Dr. Fidalgo has an MEng in chemical engineering and a PhD in energy engineering. Thank you very much for your participation, and we will be very happy to hear your presentation.
Thank you, Marco. So I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully you'll be able to see that now.
Yes, we can see that. Thank you.
Okay, let me see. Okay. So thank you for the presentation. As Marco mentioned, I'm the Green Hydrogen Lead in a business in BP called Innovation and Engineering. So my role is highly technical, but today my presentation is not going to be very technical at all. So I'm trying to use this time to guide you through the journey that BP has started to bring clean hydrogen to the world. So I'll pass the disclaimer. So I'm sure most of the people in the call is familiar with BP, but I don't know how many people is actually familiar with our new ambition. So in February last year, the CEO, Bernard Looney, announced BP's new ambition, which is to be a net zero company by 2050 or sooner, and to help the world to get to net zero. So the purpose of BP is reimagining energy for the people and the planet. And that means dramatically reducing the carbon in our own operations and production, and also to grow new low carbon business and products and services. The BP ambition, it's supported by 10 aims, 5 underpinning the objective to become a net zero company, and 5 to help the world to meet net zero. So you could find all that information in bp.com if you are interested in knowing more about our ambition. The ambition itself, in order to be delivered, it's underpinned by a new strategy. And the strategy is to reshape our business by 2030 and to pivot from an international oil company to an integrated energy company focused on delivering solutions for our customers. And although there are many different focus areas underpinning this new strategy, the one that is relevant for today's webinar is the low carbon electricity and energy, which is all about building a scale in renewables and bioenergy, and also seeking early positions in hydrogen CCUS. So the objective is to have 10% of the hydrogen core markets by 2030. So this is the most technical that I'm going to get probably today. So these figures that you can see in here are coming from the BP Energy Outlook 2020. So every year BP publishes a openly available energy outlook. And in last year's scenario, last year outlook, there were 3 scenarios that were modeled. A business as usual, which is not shown in this slide, and then the rapid transition scenario and the net zero scenario. So the rapid transition scenario considers a series of policy measures led by a significant increase in the carbon prices and supported by more targeted sector-specific measures. And that caused carbon emissions to be reduced to fall around 70% by 2050. In the net zero scenario, there's the same assumption about the policy measurements, but with the addition and the reinforced by a significant shift in how the society behaves and the preferences to consume energy. And that leads to a global carbon emissions fall by 95% by 2050. So in that framework, what you can see here are the results in particularly for hydrogen. The use of hydrogen as an energy carrier increases significantly both in the rapid and the net zero scenarios as the world transitions to a lower carbon energy system. The growth in hydrogen is concentrated probably in the second half of the time considering the energy outlooks, so towards 2050 in both cases. And that is due to the falling in the cost of the technology and also combined with rising carbon prices. So hydrogen is mainly used in industry and also in transport. In industry as a source of energy for high temperature processes, so that would be in steel, cement, refining and petrochemicals. And in the use of hydrogen is particularly concentrated in the long distance transportation, so particularly heavy duty trucks. So the mobility part that is very difficult to decarbonize with electric motors. Hydrogen then complements the growing of the role of electricity in both scenarios because it can be used for activities which are difficult or costly to electrify. And as I said, that is particularly true for industry and some industry sectors and transport. The production of hydrogen in both the scenarios is dominated by the green and the blue hydrogen. So there's some heritage gray hydrogen, but that's coming from facilities which by 2030 or 2050 will be still online producing hydrogen from natural gas or coal without CCUS. As you know, green hydrogen is made of electrolysis, while blue hydrogen would consider in this case either natural gas or coal gasification coupled with carbon capture and storage. The production of blue hydrogen helps supply the hydrogen to grow both in the rapid and the net zero scenarios without relying heavily on the renewable energy. And this is important for 2 reasons. First, if we rely only on green hydrogen, that would require an even faster expansion in wind and solar capacity that is already required to cover other applications that can only be decarbonized by electrification. And then on the second part, the production of green hydrogen diverts, as I said, renewable energy that could potentially be used for decarbonizing the power sector, for example. The mix of blue and green hydrogen, although showing in here mostly 50-50 for both scenarios, might be different depending on the country and the regions, and that will depend on local conditions. So the same that I just said, it's summarized in this infographic, and it's probably much more fun than what I just say. So you can find this as well in our website, and you can see a brief summary of the same results that I've just shared, a brief explanation of what is hydrogen with the three main colors of production: green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, and the conventional gray hydrogen, and also the different uses that are expected for the low carbon hydrogen in the future. So in the next slides, what I would like to show you is how BP is already in this journey to create this distinctive position on delivering 10% of the core markets by 2030 on hydrogen. We are building momentum using our own capabilities. So hydrogen is used in our refineries. BP produces and consumes hydrogen at scale in 6 refineries today. And also we are trying to access new markets such as industry, transport, and power. And BP is prioritizing regions with advantaged resource and also, and very important, with early policy support. So a range of different publicly announced projects on hydrogen. The first one being Lincoln Green Hydrogen Project. So BP has partnered with Ørsted to develop a project for the industrial scale production of green hydrogen at BP Lincoln Refinery that is in the northwest of Germany. So the project plans to build 50 megawatts electrolyzer powered by North Sea offshore wind, which could be operational by 2024. And these would be sufficient to replace around 20% of the current use of hydrogen in the refinery, which is obviously gray hydrogen. And it's supposed to be avoiding 80,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions a year. The second project is Get Hydrogen. This is BP, Evonik, Nueva, OG, and RWE Generation partnering to jointly develop this project, which will produce green hydrogen, but it's also heavily involved in creating the first publicly accessible hydrogen infrastructure in Germany. So the project itself consider 100 megawatt electrolyzer are the RWE power plant in Lingen, and also the first 135 kilometers of pipeline converted from 16 natural gas pipelines into hydrogen from Lingen to Gelsenkirchen. And the idea would be to use this green hydrogen in refineries, including Gelsenkirchen refinery in Germany, which is a BP's refinery, and also in other industrial applications such as in steel production. And the overall project plans to avoid carbon dioxide emissions up to 60 million tons by 2030. Staying in the Northwest Europe, of moving to the Netherlands, another project is H250 in Rotterdam. This is a BP, Nourion, and the Port of Rotterdam joint project, which is to explore the opportunity of making green hydrogen, again, via electrolysis for BP's refinery in Rotterdam. which has, again, the potential for significant reductions on carbon dioxide emissions because it would be replacing gray hydrogen that is currently used at the refinery. The parties have signed a memorandum of understanding for a feasibility study of a 250 megawatt electrolyzer, and it's to produce 45,000 tons of green hydrogen per year using renewable energy. The development of these large-scale electrolyzer would be connected to the offshore wind farms. Another project in the Netherlands, but in the Rotterdam area as well, but in this case related to blue hydrogen, is H-Vision. So the main focus of H-Vision program is on the production, as I said, of blue hydrogen from natural gas and also from refinery fuel gas. The carbon dioxide that is released from the during the production via reforming will be captured and stored in the depleted gas fields in the North Sea. The blue hydrogen that is produced from these plants will be then used to generate heat and power in the different refineries. So the H-Vision initiative has a first stage of a hydrogen production plant of 750 megawatt thermal and expected to be completed in 2026, but there could be room for expansion up to 1,500 megawatts thermal capacity. BP is also conducting a feasibility study into an export scale renewable hydrogen production facility in Western Australia. And this feasibility study is funded by the Australian Renewable Energy Agency. So the project is considered a pilot scale of 20,000 tons per annum of green ammonia plant to be sold into domestic markets, and it's also considering a commercial plant up to 1 million tons per annum. And this expansion would be much more focused on export-oriented green ammonia plant. The feasibility study will deliver a detailed techno-economic analysis of both the pilot and the commercial scale green ammonia in the Geraldton, which is the area of Australia where this plant would be located. And this is a very good area for the development of green hydrogen and hence green ammonia as well, because of the vast solar and wind resources, which is something that Marco mentioned at the beginning about Mexico as well. So that's very favorable in Australia. And finally, last but not least, hydrogen Teesside in the UK. So the proposed project in Teesside would be the largest blue hydrogen production in the UK, producing up to 1 gigawatt thermal of hydrogen, which is about 20% of the UK's hydrogen target by 2030. And will support as well the development of the region as UK's first hydrogen transport hub. The project will or could support jobs in Teesside by the development of an industrial hydrogen cluster and also enable the decarbonization of the industries in the region. It is aiming to accelerate the development of the hydrogen cluster. And for that reason, BP has also signed agreements to work with Venator, which is industry in the area, the Northern Gas Networks, and also the Tees Valley Combined Authority. And that's all from my side. So I hope I was able to capture to some extent the journey that BP has started in terms of bringing the low carbon hydrogen to a reality. My email is in the presentation, so if you have any particular question that I'm able to answer, please feel free to drop an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fidalgo. Bea, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Of course, it's very interesting to know BP's strategy and also the projects that are currently being developed. So we now have heard from academia and the private sector and large energy company. And of course, the final objective of our project is that it could lead to the implementation of a pilot project. And the experiencing of implementing this kind of pilot projects in the context of a developing country like Mexico is of great importance. And for the next presentation, we have Dr. Jessica Ocampos. Dr. Ocampos has a PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Cambridge, is engineer in biotechnology from the University of Chile, and has a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering from the University of Chile as well. Dr. Ocampos has more than 15 years of experience in management and commercialization of research and development results from academia and industry, spanning from international large corporates to startups and spin-outs. Her experience in industry involves managerial roles in international engineering projects for multinational companies, including Bayer Corporation in the United States, Procter & Gamble, Latin America, Air Liquide, Germany, and France. Dr. Ocampos is fellow of the Center for Environment, Energy, and Natural Resource Governance, Synergy, at the University of Cambridge. And she is part of the UK-packed roster of experts and consultant in innovation and technology transfer for the International Outreach Program of Cambridge Enterprise, the Technology Transfer Office of the University of Cambridge. Dr. Ocampos co-founded CamNexus, an award-winning tech company with an R&D team based in Cambridge and Latin America. CamNexus develops IoT and sensor solutions and acts as a technology transfer platform that responds to global challenges for sustainable development through digitalization and smart transformation in key productive sectors. She currently leads the technology development and deployment of network solutions of low-power sensors and digital infrastructure for applications in utilities, mining, and agriculture in Latin America, Uganda, and the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, and I pass over to you.
Muchas gracias. Many thanks, Marco, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity, for inviting me here, for an opportunity to present today. I will share my screen now. So, 1 second. Here. Please tell me if you can see my slides.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you. Well, as Marco said very kindly, I am pleased to be here to tell a bit of the experiences and also gathering a bit of information of how has been the process of this innovation path, let's say, in terms of the green hydrogen. And of course, the opportunities that this could represent for Latin America, in particularly Mexico. Just wanted to do a brief introduction apart from what Marco said. In the 15 years I have been involved in the process of taking technology many times from the lab up to the commercialization, and I am in the first as a first-hand experience sometimes of the challenges, and why not the frustrations when such technologies are not necessarily tackling the needs that we were intended to do with that originally. So and probably one of the key things have to do with how we can be can we understand how some sectors which not necessarily are involved in certain areas, they need to involve new technologies, new innovation path and abilities that requires this to be a successful innovation. So there's just an example of the different activities, and particularly important is just to say that most of the work we are doing relates to how we can take and develop in a co-development mode technology that can actually tackle the sustainable goals. So through this presentation, I would like to tackle about the challenges and opportunities for green hydrogen that have been already said, many of them, and the role of pilots in this technology adoption process, the opportunities for Mexico and Latin America, and key recommendations from experience in the tech transfer and innovation of maybe successful or not so successful cases. Well, we know that hydrogen has been with us for a long time. Actually, electrolysis, industrial electrolysis was in the 18th century, in the 1800s. So we know that this is not new. Hydrogen is not new, and in terms of demand, if we look at the International Energy Agency, we can see the global annual demand for hydrogen since 1975, and how it has been growing over time, and actually the estimates to continue growing. But the current way that hydrogen is done has an impact on the environment with an emission of 830 million tons of CO2 per year, which is equivalent to the CO2 emissions of Indonesia and the United Kingdom combined. So that is quite something to keep in mind. That is the current scenario of 95% of the hydrogen that is produced. Today, we have an unprecedented moment in which hydrogen particularly seems to be coming here to solve and be probably a solution to the huge environmental problems that we're facing today. There's a public pressure which is rising to limit global warming in 1.5 degrees Celsius, and more governments are recognizing hydrogen's ability to decarbonize the sectors that otherwise they were not possible to do it. Actually, we just have that presentation from BP in which it was mentioned too. And moreover, this is not just about governments, but also industrial leaders have taken a bold approach and look at how to using low carbon and renewable hydrogen as a serious alternative to reach their increasingly robust sustainability objectives. Actually, if you look at the right side, this is the launch of the Hydrogen Council in January 2017 in Davos, and it comes as a response of the 2015 Paris Agreement. And here, Benoit Potier, the CEO of Air Liquide, actually mentioned how it's important that industrial leaders can take this decision working together, but they need also the support of the government. And the government have to give the right signals in order to make larger scale infrastructure investment so that the scalability of hydrogen can actually make the impact expected. And as you remember, I say there are some emissions that are done through the hydrogen if it's used through fossil fuels. So where the hydrogen comes from is important. So large scale production of low carbon hydrogen, here are two if in this sentence, has the potential to play a significant role in tackling climate change and improving air quality, among other things. So it's important to understand these two if, and that is also part of this presentation. We know already this, so we have the rainbow of hydrogen, and it depends to have different characteristics. This is evolving as we know more. So I've been targeting here the green hydrogen, which is based on energy source, any renewable energy resource, and whose process of getting hydrogen is through electrolysis of water. In terms of emissions, its potential of being zero depending on the source of power used. The traditional hydrogen, let's say, that has been with us for a long time, either brown or gray, and they are depending on coal or lignite, in that case is high gasification, or gray natural gas with the steam methane reformation that you already knew about. In terms of the blue hydrogen, any non-renewable energy source, but which is then in the process it is coupled with a carbon capture and storage system, which eventually could lead up to the reduction of up to 90% depending on the process. So the current challenges that we have with green hydrogen are related to, one of the key one is high production cost. So if we look at all the cost of the other sources of hydrogen, today production through renewable energy is very high and has two main components, which actually you have seen in one of the first presentations, relates to the investment. It is in the electrolyzers and catalyzers, and in the other side, the electricity cost. Moreover, the development of hydrogen infrastructure is slow and is holding back the widespread adoption. Technology adoption is really important, and having engagement of the community, particularly because of the safety issues around hydrogen, as I said in some of the reports, I think of the IEA or the ARENA, it has a bad start at some point, but now is having new opportunity, and we need to embrace that. Hydrogen prices for consumers are highly dependent on how many refuel stations there are, how often they are used, and how much hydrogen is delivered per day. So tackling this is likely to require planning and coordination that brings together national and local governments, main industry, and investors. Other challenge is, as already said, most of the hydrogen today is supplied from natural gas and coal, 95% of that. And finally, the level of regulations currently limit the development of a clean hydrogen industry. If we look at the price, just at the hydrogen production cost, as we were talking about, as I said, there's electricity on one side and the capex or the investment on the other side. So if we consider that electricity fixed, for example, to $40 per megawatt hour, and we move in different curves the value of the cost of the electrolyzer, for example, the electrolyzer system, we can see how important it is by increasing the full load hours that it has an impact in how it can actually decline the impact of the capex, and the electricity becomes the main cost or component on the water electrolysis. On the other side, here we have that the same, so we can see what happened with a fixed capex, so the investment into the electrolyzer, against the different cost of energy. The good news is that we know that renewable energy costs are declining. And that is particularly important in some regions on the planet that are favorable because of the resource conditions. And here we can see, for example, the map of the International Energy Agency, where we see the deepest or the darker blue is where we have the lower cost of energy from renewable as estimated. And that is really important how we see the regions, so particularly in the north and in the south. And that is super important news for why we're doing this. If you remember, considering that electricity is one of the key costs that is embedded in the hydrogen cost, if we're able to tackle that and co-locate hydrogen production with renewables, that is a good case for a business opportunity. Moreover, in the International Energy Agency report of the future of hydrogen that was prepared for the G20 in 2019, it said that while most of these projects receive direct public support, talking about projects that are being deployed under deployment for green hydrogen, including from research budgets. They involve public and private sector partners who have shown the technologies to be effective and have learned how much about how to manage the project risk and contractor considerations. However, many stakeholders today share the opinion that the technologies such as fossil fuels, water electrolyzers, hydrogen refueling, and hydrogen turbines are now mainly waiting for large-scale demand and standardization and not further technological development. Fuel cell costs in particular are expected to greatly benefit from mass manufacture. That is something quite interesting because let's go into what that is the mean of the technology maturity. So while efforts are done towards scaling up, so we need this whole strong government effort on demand creation. We need to work on the innovations, yes? So innovation is crucial to reduce the cost and improve the performance of the electrolyzer, for example. Just if we're talking about this water electrolysis pathway toward hydrogen. And in that case, the goals will mean to reduce the cost by standardization and simplification of the manufacturing and design, to allow the industrialization and scale up, improve efficiency to reduce the amount of electricity required, and increase the durability to extend the equipment lifetime so that we can spread the cost of this electrolyzer facility over a larger hydrogen production volume. If we look at the existing route, the main route of hydrogen production, here I put thermochemical and electrochemical mainly. And coming back into that statement of we have technology there, is ready, we just need to scale up, okay? So if we look at the thermochemical processes through production through raw material, here I put to the right the technology readiness level. For you, maybe you have heard the technology readiness level is an indicator of the maturity of the technology and how close it is to the market. So actually, if we look, we have this scale which was adopted from the NASA space programs from TRL 0 to 9. As we move towards higher TRL numbers, we have closer technology ready to the market. And so the 0 to 3 are mainly research, while 3 to 6 are the development, and 7 to 9 is the demonstration and almost the diffusion in the diffusion process. If we look into this, and particularly focusing on the green hydrogen as defined by this kind of a rainbow or traffic light, we could say. This we have that for water, alkaline electrolyzers, actually a mature technology. It is existing in the market. We have commercialization, but it's the problem of cost. And in terms of the other possible components that require to look for how it is for technology readiness, we have that is lower either in development demonstration or research development. So the technology innovation, if we just look at as a linear process from research to diffusion, we see that pilot demonstration is only one part of this pipeline of innovation. And we need to work understanding that actually the innovation process is not a linear process and is very, and actually the innovation per se, it has a lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty and innovation goes hand in hand. And we need continuous feedback as we do each of the steps of the development, research, development, demonstration, in order to be able to get the information and improve our technology towards a successful diffusion into the market. So the role of this is basically to have key elements in helping development new technologies with the potential to address the climate change. What we're looking here, to decrease the technological uncertainties and to decrease the TRL to diffusion and commercialization. The pilots in the context of green hydrogen, however, have a very clear challenge. We need to scale up. The current scenario and challenges are telling that the key goal in order to make this adopted is to scale up, and not just that. So how to scale up? That is from the supply, but we need to have a demand. That this requires a holistic and a systemic approach. I just put here the diagram schematic of what would be like an example of the approach, including the whole system up to the demand. Actually, here we could include the transportation. And it is important to have that within a strong government and public policy that can generate a demand over time. And moreover, R&D, strategic demonstration projects, and knowledge sharing. This is critical. Governments need to continue playing a central role in setting the research agenda for early stage high risk projects, taking early stage risk and crowding in private investment in projects. So what happened with this technology already developed? We need to transfer the technology. And in transfer of the technology is basically the process of taking the result of the research from one organization to the other in order to be developed and commercialized. This is relevant, but to have that is not just a question of having a technology. You actually need to have the knowledge. The technology and the knowledge and of its use and application is together. Without the knowledge base, the physical entity cannot be put into use. Thus, the knowledge base is inherent, not ancillary, in the process of technology transfer. Therefore, the importance of building a local innovation ecosystem and understanding the national innovation systems with all the key stakeholders to make this success. So how is the global landscape in terms of leaders? Can we be position ourselves and can we learn from others? Just, I know I have very short time. So basically, if we look at the national strategies from 2018 to now, normally the national strategies should start from the R&D programs towards the vision, the roadmap, and a strategy. That is the normal way to do. And then in the process of the strategy, normally start with establishment of the research and development programs in order to understand the principles of the technology that will be the knowledge base to inform future stages. And with that, we can have a clear vision and the roadmap and the final strategy of the country. This is the current scenario of the world, of all the different countries, and what exactly are they doing in terms of the national strategy. Here we have some of the latest one, for example, in Chile in November 2020, and they're coming strategies from more countries. The only one here with the research one is China. And the key players in electrolyzer producers, this is really important also. Where are we standing now in the world? So if we have all the different producers today of electrolyzer, here we can identify in which of them have the capability to produce, for example, all of the different electrolyzers that we have been explained. There's nothing in our region. The capability per country. So here we can see, for example, Germany and Italy, as they can produce all the different electrolyzers. China, however, is really interesting. It's only having alkaline now. That is the information from the IRA. And in terms of government budget and research and development and demonstration for hydrogen and fuel cells, this is a very important information. How are we doing in comparing to the world in terms of the research and development? As I say, it's the first part, the pillar in the national strategy. Without talented, high-skilled people with the knowledge base, it's really impossible to do anything of this. So this is more or less about how we're seeing. So we have, since 2005, already a government budget towards this area. And this is just, yes, sorry, Mark.
No, I'm very sorry. If you could start concluding, we would really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No worries. So, and this final one here is just to show the other important R&D and innovation data, which relates to the number of publications and patents and related, which was created by the fuel cells and hydrogen joint undertaking. the final view today of the type of initiatives existing in Latin America, you can see it here. You have the presentation, so you will be able to see. And what are the kind of projects and opportunities for low carbon hydrogen that's being played? Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Well, just very briefly, what are the key takeaways from here? The pilot is just one part of the innovation pipeline. We need to have a clear strategy. The pilot doesn't necessarily mean that we're green hydrogen ready. And for the pilot definition, we need to have a clear mission-driven approach. What do we need to improve? A start and end, and the clear metrics of where they achieved, seeing the technology as an enabler and not as the goal. The recent successes of solar photovoltaic and other renewables, giving us a clear evidence of how policy and technology innovation have the power to build global clean energy industries. So just to finalize, it is important to have, not to tie this to a core funding, but to have an independent, these are the lessons. Most of the pilots are normally highly dependent on project financing. It shouldn't be the case. And they shouldn't be tied to, they are normally not tied to core funding. They should be. So there's a failure to connect innovation and pilot schemes with large services and purchasing decisions. And it's important to have more public procurement system for demonstration and contract process with local SMEs. The first thing to do is create a demand and then making a huge opportunity on developing the local innovation and knowledge base. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ocampos, Jessica. It was a very interesting presentation. It will definitely help us to design our roadmap and locally in the future to have a pilot project in Mexico. So for our next presentation, and we are delighted to have a representative from an international organization such as the World Bank. So we have today Dr. Fernando de Cisternes. Dr. de Cisternes is an energy specialist at the World Bank's Energy Sector Management Assistance Program, SMAP, where he leads the Variable Renewable Grid Integration Program and co-leads the Energy Storage Partnership. Since joining the World Bank, he has worked with teams around the world on strategic energy planning, energy security, regional market integration, and renewable energy grid integration. Dr. de Cisternes has 13 years energy sector experience, including roles at US Argonne National Laboratory, the International Energy Agency, Siemens Gamesa, and other organizations as an independent policy consultant with published works in IEEE transactions on power systems, energy economics, applied energy, among others. He holds a PhD in technology management and policy and an MS in technology and policy from MIT. Thank you very much, and I hand over to you now.
Thank you so much, Marco, for your kind introduction. Just a quick check to make sure that my audio is correct.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Well, first of all, I would like to thank the Centro Mario Molina and UK base for the kind invitation to be with all of you today. It's a great pleasure to give you an introduction of the work that we are doing at the World Bank on green hydrogen, and also to share some perspectives on how we see the technology playing a role in developing countries. So while I connect my slides, maybe I can ask very quickly to Marco, how much time do I have to present, knowing that we are a little bit tight?
Well, we have between 15 and 20 minutes, so don't worry. You can take the time.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll try to be as light as possible, and I'll try not to repeat what some of the other presenters have already shared. So our main motivation for looking at green hydrogen is the fact that emissions outside of power are about 75% of the total emissions generated worldwide. So it's very important that we focus on these sectors if we are aiming for a net zero energy economy. The good news, as some of our colleagues have presented already, is that electrolyzers, renewables have declining costs dramatically, and that makes green hydrogen a cost competitive option that should be explored to decarbonize what we call hard to abate sectors, so industry, transport, buildings, as well as some other sectors and applications that I will overview very briefly. I will not touch on the differences between blue and green hydrogen because those are already covered, but I would like to highlight the fact that we are already seeing production costs in developing countries that are very close to $2.5 per kilogram. This is highly critical because at this cost, we can start seeing some applications becoming financially feasible. So that's something to keep in mind. The other point that I would like to make with regards to cost is that a lot of countries have the aspiration to become exporters, and I think that's a very very positive position. We should not neglect, though, the fact that we have transport costs associated with the transport of hydrogen. So that can add between $0.5 and $2.5 per kilogram of hydrogen being transported. So that's something that needs to be kept in mind in order to design the optimal strategy to produce and consume low carbon hydrogen in low and middle income countries. The cost projections are also very favorable when it comes to the production cost of blue and green hydrogen. This is the projection of green hydrogen, and the graph shows that in 2035, it might become cost competitive with fossil fuel-based hydrogen. So with that in mind, I think the role of green hydrogen should be contemplated already. And strategies need to be taking into account this cost reduction potential to produce low carbon hydrogen in the future. Now I'll jump directly into the what we think are near-term opportunities in developing countries. The first one, when it comes to production, we are engaging with a number of countries that have exceptional renewable resources. This is the case of Namibia. They have world-class solar potential, as well as very good wind resources. And in these type of countries, the potential to produce green hydrogen and green ammonia at very low cost is significant. In the particular case of Namibia, besides exploring local applications like the production of fertilizers, the decarbonization of steel production, and the decarbonization of freight transport, they're also contemplating the production of mass green ammonia to be exported to other countries through their deep sea port in Walvis Bay. Now, when it comes to green hydrogen uses, I will start by commenting on the mini-grid application for isolated locations. This is a mini-grid in South Africa that is powering a high school. You can see there all the main components of a hydrogen-based mini-grid. You can see the hydrogen deposit in red, and then the fuel cell and the electrolyzer are in the container that is painted with some graffiti. The main point here about mini-grids is that right now hydrogen-based mini-grids are cost competitive with diesel-based mini-grids. We are seeing commercial solutions going for between $220 and $240 the megawatt hour. So if you compare that with the cost of a diesel-based mini-grid selling electricity at prices above $250 the megawatt hour, you can see that these type of solutions could already be very attractive, particularly in these isolated locations and island nations as well. These green hydrogen mini-grids are not cost competitive, though, with the state-of-the-art mini-grid combining solar PV, batteries, and diesel, but the cost trend is declining very quickly. So we might see that cost competitive point very, very soon. This is another green hydrogen-based mini-grid in Uganda, and the project is powering a number of villages in this region in Uganda with a very similar design as the project that I showed below. As you can see here more clearly, the solar PV, and then the container with the electrolyzer, the fuel cell, and the power electronics. Another important application that many of our countries are exploring is the decarbonization of heavy-duty transport and freight. This is particularly relevant in urban centers with a very strong pollution problem. And this application in particular comes from Costa Rica, where a green hydrogen project is powering a bus that is being used in the country. And the country is exploring the scale up of these type of solutions already. There's also the application of hydrogen to power trains. This is relevant in lines with very low ridership. And in the end, a lot of applications in transport come from the displacement of diesel. So every time that you see diesel as the mainstream fuel for these applications, you can see low carbon hydrogen as potentially displacing fossil fuels. The next application is the mass production of ammonia, and this has a number of potential applications. The first one is the production of fertilizers. So this is critical for the agriculture sector. So in a way, green hydrogen as a locally produced fuel can not only enhance energy security, but it can also enhance food security by the production of these fertilizers at a local level. This is a project in the US using wind power to produce green hydrogen that then is transformed into green ammonia. Another important application of green ammonia is the decarbonization of maritime shipping. This has been a sector that has been traditionally very hard to decarbonize, and we have a trust fund at the World Bank, ProBlue, housed in the climate change department, and they're working together with our transport unit to develop solutions that can be deployed in developing countries using green ammonia as a way to decarbonize the maritime transport sector. On the industry side, the decarbonization of steel production is quite important. This is a project in India, and it is using green hydrogen to decarbonize the production of steel by reducing iron ore with hydrogen. And hydrogen in the context of the industrial processes can also be used in high temperature processes. So there's a lot of applications in the industry sector that could benefit from green hydrogen and its decarbonization potential. Now, on the electricity sector, hydrogen has been brought up a few times as a way to integrate more renewables in the system. That's right. We do have the power of battery storage as a short and medium term way to integrate more renewables. In my view, hydrogen will not play a strong role until we reach those very high penetration levels above 70–80% of renewables. So it will be important to achieve the 100% renewable penetration that some countries are aiming for. This pilot project is in Thailand. It's a small project associated with a renewable energy production facility. They have a learning center in the facility, and they're using power from the wind farm that otherwise would be curtailed to power an electrolyzer, and then the hydrogen produced is used in a fuel cell that is providing the electricity to the learning center of the facility. Now, when it comes to deployment challenges, the first one that I would like to highlight is the need for specific knowledge and capabilities. Hydrogen has been used for many decades, but at the same time, it's a very small molecule that requires a lot of technical expertise that needs to be built in many countries in order to secure the safe operation of these type of projects. This is not a problem that is exclusive to low-income and middle-income countries. It's also a problem that countries as Mexico that are part of the OECD are dealing with. Another important challenge is the fact that all hydrogen equipment is very capital intensive, and we need further cost reductions on the side of the electrolyzers, on the side of the renewables, and we also need to mobilize sufficient climate financing to, in the end, reduce the financial burden on countries and investors that decide to deploy these type of technologies. Desalination requirements is not a critical point when it comes to cost, but it is an important point to take into account when it comes to project location. In the end, access to fresh water or highly purified water is very important to power and to feed the electrolyzer. So it might define where the location of the project is finally decided on. Infrastructure decisions are also important. There is a high risk to generate stranded assets, so they need to be very carefully planned by the government. What are the pipeline systems required to export hydrogen to other countries, or to commercialize hydrogen produced and used at a local level. So these are important decisions that need to be analyzed and treated very, very carefully. That's why we are promoting the development of national strategies, and we are supporting a number of countries with these strategies to meet optimally their decarbonization targets using hydrogen. Now, the World Bank has been working on green hydrogen for 3 years already, and as a result of all the research work that we've been doing from the beginning of the program, we published last year a report titled Green Hydrogen in Developing Countries, where we identify a lot of these applications and a lot of the challenges. And I would like to invite you to download it from our website if you're interested in learning more about the topic. Now, there's a lot of activities, as you've seen from previous presenters at a global level. There's at least 15 countries with these hydrogen strategies already in place. There are 60 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity already in the pipeline, of which 30 gigawatts are expected to be deployed by 2035. A lot of these projects are happening in Europe, Australia, and the US. We also see that there's plans to deploy pipeline networks, but they will take a longer time before these projects can commercialize their hydrogen through pipelines. And also we see a lot of activity in electrolyzer manufacturing capacity, with the main vendors increasing their production capacity with gigawatt size production facilities. Now, there's a lot of questions at a country level that need to be better understood. We find a lot of governments coming to us with questions about whether or not they need to wait until the technology is more mature before they start thinking about deploying green hydrogen. They're also wondering if there's any competitive advantages in the country or parts of the value chain where the country could participate in, and if they have sectors at a local level that could benefit from green hydrogen. So in order to answer all these questions, together with the impact that green hydrogen could have in promoting green jobs, we are supporting developing countries with the development of strategies. And this is support provided by ESMAP, the Energy Sector Management Systems Program, where I work. And we are already working with a number of countries, and the list is growing very rapidly as the interest in exploring green hydrogen options. Just to give you a quick overview of the systematized approach that we're using in developing these strategies. So first, we try to analyze the opportunities that green hydrogen could bring in that particular country. So that includes an analysis of the production cost of green hydrogen and green ammonia. We also look at the different sectors that could absorb that green hydrogen and green ammonia production, and looking at the local players to see if there's any particular sector that could benefit, or any particular business model that would be amenable for the deployment of green hydrogen and green ammonia. Then we continue with the identification of prerequisites to green hydrogen development at scale. So this is linked to the identification of the amount of solar capacity and wind capacity that need to be deployed to meet those hydrogen production targets, as well as the identification and implementation of the regulation and standards that can guarantee that the scale-up occurs in a sustainable way and safe way as well. The third step that we follow is linked to the maximization of socioeconomic benefits of green hydrogen. So it's looking at different sectors in the country and different strengths that the country might have, and see if the country might be particularly well placed to integrate sections of the hydrogen value chain within their economy. And that way we can maximize that socioeconomic potential that green hydrogen could bring. And then finally, once we have produced all these three analyses, we try to integrate the results from the three streams into a coherent hydrogen roadmap that very clearly outlines all the different steps that the country should follow in order to scale up green hydrogen sustainably. So thank you very much. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. De Cisternes. It was a very interesting presentation, and all the projects that you presented are also very important for our work. I would like to greatly thank BASE for their kind support. They unfortunately were not able to be here in this presentation, but they sent us some slides, which because of time, I will not be presenting, because I think Ambassador Corinne Robertson did a very great presentation of the UK strategy to hydrogen. So we might have them for your sharing with you this information at our website. And I will move on to the next and last, the next part of our agenda, which is a question and answer session. So thank you very much to all the speakers. Your knowledge is very important to us. And from now, we will be answering questions from the audience. These questions can be answered by any of our speakers, but I will be trying to direct them to a specific participant. So I will start with one of the questions that we had. I think it's directed to Dr. Fidalgo, which has to do with the storage of hydrogen and the way it's going to be stored at the Lingen site. And an anonymous attendee asks if hydrogen is going to be stored in a gaseous form or as ammonia.
So Lingen project is all about green hydrogen production to be directly used in the refinery. So there's a continuous demand of hydrogen for the refining processes, such as hydrocracking or hydrotreating. So it doesn't necessarily involve storage. So in any case, it would be gaseous hydrogen, which is produced from electrolysis, and no ammonia involved in this project at Lingen.
Okay, thank you very much. And there is another question by Alaima Clemas, who is asking if you can give us a figure regarding the kilograms per hour that are needed to or are produced from the system, if there is some idea of how much hydrogen is produced.
I can take that one. So yeah. It depends on the efficiency of the system, but assuming such as 60% efficiency on LHB, it would be around, rule of thumb, 1 megabyte electric for the electrolyzer would produce 18 kilograms per hour of hydrogen, more or less. So the electrical efficiency of the stack of the electrolyzer itself would be different depending on the technology, if it is alkaline and PEM. And you need to account for the whole system as well. So you would need to account for the balance of plant, things like compressors, for example. So nowadays it's about 50 kilowatts hours to 60 kilowatts hours per kilogram of hydrogen. depending on the technology again and your system. But obviously that's one of the key parameters that it needs to be improved, as Jessica was mentioning, because it reflects on the cost of your operation. So the cost of the electrolysis is highly reliant on the renewable power. So if you can consume less power, then the overall cost of your hydrogen, it's going to decrease.
Thank you very much. I think the next question is open to any of our speakers. And Elias Martinez is asking, how about biomass derived from hydrogen? Is it considered as an option?
I will just start, but please, the other speaker can join. Yes, it is also an option. Well, in my presentation, I just focused on what was the water electrolysis case, but it's also an option. And the important thing is to understand, at the end, it's all depend on which type of sources are you using, so energy sources for the production. So if it's from renewable or not. And that is also an option that can be considered. I don't know if there are any cases that any of you or the other panelists would like to share, but yeah.
So I agree with Jessica that technology-wise is an option. And I think it's important, very important, to consider the sustainability of the whole value chain. So it's biomass, hydrogen from biomass have the risk of using biomass that is not sustainably produced. So I think that's something to take into account. But yeah, it would be an option from the technical point of view. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add. Thanks, Marco. I just wanted to add that that in the process that I show as well, it was possible to feed natural gas, but also biomass in the steam methane reforming process. So it can be an option to use biomass as well as a renewable source, but it will be gasification instead of having the methane steam reforming after. So to have gasification. And then the process is the same. And then hydrogen can be produced and then different chemicals from there. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Jorge Armando Gutierrez asks if a specific modification of engines and also the fuel tank needs to be modified in order to have hydrogen because of its difference in its calorific value. So could you give us some opinion on this?
So hydrogen for mobility applications is many times related to the use of fuel cells rather than internal combustion engines. But it can be used in internal combustion engines, and there's more and more initiatives on actually using that, because you would need to change your vehicles much less than moving into these new fuel cell technologies. But yeah, you would need to adapt the injectors and how the combustion is done because of what is mentioned on the calorific value. And yeah, definitely onboard storage is one of the key issues that needs further research, that the storage being either compressed or liquid hydrogen. And at the same time, what it needs much more research as well is on dispensing the hydrogen into the vehicle as a compressed gas or a liquid.
Thank you very much. Fernando Tovar asks, well, he's asking if there has been an analysis in terms of developing a green hydrogen market in Mexico, and if the results could be shared with us. I think we are trying to do so. We are trying to develop a roadmap for implementation of projects. So we will be considering a large amount of alternatives and projects, and we are going to try to do so. So we will be sharing our results with you, and you can check our website, and there you can find some of our findings and the results. So we hope that they could be useful. Then Leopoldo Rodriguez Olivares is asking that hydrogen production requires water, green hydrogen production. So what is your perspective in terms of the use of water for this purpose? Because it could compete with human use and for other applications, particularly for a country that has been exposed to droughts such as Mexico. So what is your opinion about this?
I could take on that question, and that's something that has come up many times with countries in Northern Africa, because they indeed suffer these problems very, very acutely. So the response is that in the end, you need to deploy equipment to desalinize the seawater, and we do not want to compete, of course, with human uses. We want to find the synergies and the potential for even improving that water scarcity that some populations might see. So it's a key opportunity also to address water issues at a local level wherever fresh water is not available.
If I may
Yes.
complement what Fernando said, I think this is it was a really good question. I think that and as Beatrice also said, it needs the approach towards this. This has to be a systemic, holistic approach. We need to look at all the value chain and see, and it also creates more opportunities locally for our development of our capability in order to provide the right materials or solutions that can make this sustainable. So I think that that one of the key messages here is to understand that first of all, when we look what's happening in other countries, of course we use this as a reference, but the local context and the conditions that we are having in each of the places that are going to take that solution and use it or implement it needs to be taken into account. And that is very important when we are going to deploy technology. So if we don't do a kind of a survey with the community, understand the local conditions, and we need to do that in an earlier stage, and that is why it's so important to involve public, private, community, and all the key stakeholders as we do this process. And the water case would be an opportunity to create another innovation path that maybe was not there before. So it's important to see all in the same holistic approach.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have much more time, so we will just answer one more question, which is related to what is the cost of green energy in terms of US dollars per megawatt hour, so that green hydrogen could be competitive against blue hydrogen.
Well, I think it's a difficult question to answer with a single figure, because it depends on the cost of your natural gas as well, the availability of carbon capture and the storage nearby, and obviously the cost of your electrolyzer, for example. By figures that I've seen that start to be equal nowadays with the cost of the electrolyzers, it's around 20, I believe. But again, it might change depending on the region. It might change regions that have access to very cheap natural gas and at the same time very cheap renewable energy. You might actually need a lower cost, but yeah, maybe other member of the panel can give a better figure for that.
Yeah, I have the same, very similar figures. Maybe I would like to I would like to point out the fact that CCUS does not capture fully all the emissions from hydrogen production. So countries need to be careful to assess whether or not the use of CCUS in combination with hydrogen production with fossil fuels is aligned with their climate objectives. So that's something important to keep in mind. This is, of course, absent of any carbon policy. I think if you also apply a carbon policy, that the numbers would be more favorable, of course, for green hydrogen. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, and if I can give one single message, I would say that countries need to be very careful, and they need to do their homework to explore all these different effects, to explore all the synergies between all the sectors, make sure that they exploit the economies of scale that green hydrogen or the hydrogen economy in general can yield.
Thank you very much. I'm very sorry, we already ran out of time. We will trying to answer those questions that were not answered today, but please feel free to contact us if you have any other remaining question. So as a final part of the event, we will have closing remarks from our executive director. But first, I would like to personally thank everyone who participated in this event. So I will now hand over to you, Dr. Bárcena.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me well now?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to all participants. I think it was a really good meeting with a presentation of high value. We have heard in our webinar covering a wide range of topics that dealt with the development of new materials for hydrogen production, also the plans and actions of one of the most important energies companies in the world, that is BP, the technological transfer process from perspective of a small and medium enterprise, and finally, the experience of implementing pilot projects and its financing from the World Bank. As highlighted during the webinar, the topic of green hydrogen is diverse and wide-ranging in coverage, but there are several aspects in terms of natural resources, infrastructure, and demand that could play in favor of implementing a hydrogen project in Mexico. During this year, we will be working on this assignment, and even though we are at the initial stages, I am certain that the final results and conclusions will be of extreme importance for the coming COP in Glasgow. Additionally, it will be reinforced the collaboration between the United Kingdom and Mexico, helping our country to move towards a low carbon pathway. Once again, I would like to thank the UK PAC program for its support, and also our appreciation to Ambassador Karen Robertson and Dr. Claudia Octaviano for not only participating in this event, but for enthusiastically supporting our project. I would also like to thank Dr. Diana Irureta-Goyena, Dr. Beatriz Fernandez, Dr. Jessica Ocampos, and Dr. Fernando de Cisternes for sharing their vast experience and knowledge on the topic. Your participation was central for this webinar and for our project, and your solidarity is greatly appreciated. I would also like to thank all of you who kindly attended this webinar. We look forward to seeing you soon. And finally, we acknowledge the time and commitment of Dr. Marco Jano Ito and all the staff of Mario Molina Center that made this event possible. Thanks to all, best wishes, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to all.
Gracias a todos. Felicidades.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you.
Gracias a todos ustedes.
Gracias.
Gracias. Adiós.